Hi everyone, and welcome to episode 22 of the Novels and Needles podcast. I'm your host Heather, and this is a podcast where I talk about two of my favorite things to do to unwind and to relax, and that is reading and knitting. I want to say hi to everyone. Welcome to all new viewers. Thank you so much for checking me out. I hope you like what you see here, and if you do, please give me a thumbs up or hit subscribe. And I want to say welcome back to any of my returning viewers. My returning viewers know it's been a little while since I've been able to formally podcast because there have been a lot of things going on. And if you are a regular viewer, you will know my background has changed. I don't know yet where I'm going to podcast in my new house because I did move this past week. And while I should be unpacking and there are other things I need to be doing, I wanted to just take a few minutes and record a quick podcast because I haven't done one, and I just wanted to say hi to everybody, and I feel like it's a little piece of something that I can kind of keep for myself and helps keep me sane through all of this chaos and all of this change that is going on. So, as you can tell, I am in a new location. Like I said, I don't know where I will stay podcasting. I'm not sure it's going to be here because this background is kind of weird. But I haven't figured out a good spot yet, and so I just went with what was quick and what was easy and what was relatively free of boxes. So you can find me on social media. I will put that information up on the screen. I am active on Instagram and Ravelry, both places, and please check me out there. We do have a Ravelry group for the podcast called the Novels and Needles Ravelry Group. And that is a podcast where I post show notes and any other information about the podcast will be there. I'd like it to get to be a little bit more active and get some more stuff going on in there. But right now I haven't really had the brain space to kind of think about that a whole heck of a lot. And I'll get to all of that at the end when I talk about what's been going on in my life. I don't want to bog that down here at the beginning. I had intended to podcast yesterday, which was Friday, June 30th, but with everything going on, I was not able to do that. I got back late here, and it just wasn't going to work out with the lighting and all of that, and I was really tired. So it is Saturday morning, July 1st, and I wanted to get this podcast out before I did anything else. I've got a lot of stuff to do today, so this will probably be a quick one. So without any further ado, I'm going to move on into what it is that I have been reading. So what I've been reading, since it has been a while since I've podcasted, I do have a finished book to talk about today and two books that I'm currently reading. And I am afraid that this section is the content's going to kind of go down a little bit as I start my new career, so I apologize up front about that. I'm going to do the best that I can, especially audiobooks. I'm going to be in the car a lot, so I'm probably going to get through audiobooks much more often than my physical books that I'm reading. But the first book that I did finish, and as always, I will have timestamps down below when I talk about the book so that if there are any spoilers, which there probably will be with my finished books, you don't have to worry about having anything ruined for you, and you can go check out the books that you want to hear about. So the first book that I finished was the third book in the Heroes of Olympus series that my daughter Abby has been wanting me to read and to go through. And that is called The Mark of Athena. This series follows up on the Percy Jackson series by Rick Riordan, and it stars Percy as one of the characters in it, as well as Annabeth. But in this series, they come into contact and discover that in addition to being Greek demigods, there are also Roman demigods. And now there is a band of 7, a combination of the Greek and the Roman demigods that are working together to return to the ancient land of Rome and Greece to stop the earth goddess Gaia from being reformed and coming back to life and destroying the world. So in this third book, the seven have finally all come together, and the Greeks came over to the Roman camp, and that was happening at the end of the second book, The Son of Neptune. And they're coming over to the Greek camp, and just as they are arriving, everyone's really nervous because there's always been a lot of conflict between the Greek and the Roman demigods, and they cause a lot of issues when they fight with each other, and so there was a lot of tension in this. But because in the first two books, Percy from the Greek camp had been sent to the Roman camp, and all of his memories had been wiped by Hera or Juno, per whatever you want to call her. And then Jason, who was a son of Jupiter, who is Zeus in the Greek, he had been sent to the Greek camp, and that was the first book. So the first two books was kind of this outsider in their camps, kind of bringing their camps together and going on quests to kind of build some trust and confidence in each other. And now they're going to come together, and they're going to go try to save the world, so to speak. And they arrive, and there are a lot of tension there, but then the ship that they had built, Leo, who is the son of Hephaestus from the Greek camp, he had built this ship, and he ends up being possessed by the spirit who causes him to fire on the Roman camp, thus initiating war, so to speak. And the seven demigods who are going on this quest, they jump on this and they take off, but the Romans are in pursuit of them. And they're, again, as always, going through a bunch of adventures trying to reach Rome, where they have quests that they have to do. They have to defeat these twin giants, and they're trying to locate the doors of death to stop death and to close the gates of Hades so that the monsters aren't coming back and there's not this free passage kind of a thing. I'm not sure I'm explaining this very well because there's a lot of complicated layers to this story. But spoilers coming now, so if you don't want to hear any more, skip ahead. They do make it to Rome, and Annabeth sets out on her own because she is following the Mark of Athena, and she's looking for the statue of Athena that used to be in the Parthenon, I think, in Greece, that disappeared when the Romans kind of conquered and took over. And this is what is said to be part of the big source of contention, is this relationship with Athena and how she becomes Minerva and how it's such a different aspect of herself. So Annabeth kind of has to go off on her own to deal with that. And then the others, which are Percy, who is the son of Poseidon, and there's Jason, the son of Jupiter from the Roman camp, Piper, who is the daughter of Aphrodite, Leo, who's the son of Hephaestus that I mentioned, drawing a blank on the other two, Frank, who is the son of Mars, who is Ares in the Greek, and then Hazel, who is the daughter of Pluto, who is also Hades in the Greek. And also Nico D'Angelo, who is in the first series, who is the son of Hades, kind of comes into play in all of this as well. He's not one of them on the quest, but Nico is just kind of this like lurky figure who kind of moves around on the outsides and is a little bit creepy to everybody, and he makes for an interesting little character. So they make it to Rome, they do their battle, they save the world. There's a little bit of a twist at the end that I will not give away for anybody that happens that kind of steps into what's going to be the fourth book, which is the House of Hades. And I have not started reading that yet. I am reading a grown-up book, so to speak, as kind of a break. And also Abby wasn't finished with that one before I finished this and was ready to pick up another book. So they are really quick reads. They are great books to read with your kids. They're clean. There is young kids under 10. There's some humor that I'm not sure that they would get, but there's nothing inappropriate in them, so they are definitely a good series. That and Percy Jackson are good to read. We did them as a follow-up to Harry Potter, which turned out to be a good thing. It's hard to follow up Harry Potter. How do you do that? But we've done that, and they're interesting. I enjoy Greek and Roman mythology. I enjoy all that sort of stuff. I think it's really interesting to learn about those stories and myths of the past, because even though, that way of worship and thought process is kind of gone to the wayside, there's still a lot of really interesting stories, and there's still a lot of good tales and lessons to be learned from them. So they're very interesting, and kids like that sort of stuff. So if you are looking for a series to read, or your kids are looking for a series to read, definitely check out Rick Riordan's, all of his series are pretty good. So check those out. So what I'm currently reading, last time I podcast, I had just started listening to, so I'm going to do my audiobook now, American Gods by Neil Gaiman. I am still listening to that book. It's about a 15-hour listen, and I have been so busy with everything that I have not been listening to it. Mainly because with kids around, it's hard to put in earbuds and listen to a book because they want your attention and they're very interested in what you are doing, and so it's hard to get through it. So it's only been when I've been in the car without kids that I have been listening to this book. And I am almost done with it. I'm reaching the end. The kind of climax has sort of happened. And I'll just give you kind of a brief rundown of what this book is about. The main character is a guy named Shadow Moon, who he starts off the series, he's in prison, and he is just getting out, and he's looking forward to going home and kind of having his life fresh with his wife, Laura. But right before he is released, he finds out that his wife, Laura, was in a car accident and was killed. And as he gets home and goes to her funeral, he discovers that she was actually having an affair with his best friend, which has been very difficult for him, obviously. While he's on his way home, he meets Mr. Wednesday. And Mr. Wednesday is a very mysterious person, and Shadow doesn't really know what to make of him, but Mr. Wednesday offers him a job, which is, Shadow's not real sure he wants to do this because he doesn't want to go back to prison, so he doesn't want to do anything shady or illegal. But in the end, he decides that he's going to work for Mr. Wednesday. And this sends them off on kind of a tour across the eastern portion of the United States, visiting all these obscure places. And the premise of it is Mr. Wednesday is a god, an old god, and he is trying to gather up old gods that have come to America with their various people. They've come over and taken root here, but as the new gods, and the new gods are things like wealth and technology and that sort of stuff, have taken over, there's a conflict brewing between the new gods and the old gods. And so Mr. Wednesday is trying to gather together all of the old gods to kind of fight against the new gods and take back their forms of worship. And it's weird. I don't know how else to describe it. It's very strange. Neil Gaiman is a brilliant writer, and even though his subject matter is a little bit odd and the plot can be a little weird, it's really spellbinding to listen to, especially because he writes so well that you just kind of stay entranced. And even though you're listening to it or you're reading it going, this is really, really weird stuff, you're still being moved forward and you're still compelled by it. So it's a really interesting dynamic that kind of exists with Neil Gaiman, and it's really interesting. So, without going into a whole lot of details or giving anything away yet, since I haven't quite finished it, there's a lot of, Shadow and Wednesday making their way to gather up these gods. Turns out Laura comes back from the dead, but she's still dead, so she's not a zombie, but she's kind of like an animated corpse. And she's kind of following Shadow along on this trail, and you're not really sure what her motives with all of it are. So there's a lot of things that are interweaving, but I think one of the most interesting parts of this book, and I think the part that I like the best, is when they do there's these little snippets that are put in there that talk about some of these old gods and how they came to the United States, and kind of a little bit of their background in their native land, and there's all kinds of them. And I find that to be incredibly fascinating and very interesting, and I think that's my favorite part of the book, are those little snippets that are inserted into it. It has been made into a series by Starz. I have watched that series, And the series is very good and it is very well done, but there are definitely deviations from the book. And I think they're not major deviations, and I don't know if they've bothered me, if that makes sense. I'm not a big Neil Gaiman fangirl and kind of focused in on the purity of things, so I think it's okay, but it's been done really well, and I did enjoy watching it, although, like I said, weird, definitely weird scenes in some of this stuff. It is not for children at all. The book, the show, not at all. Definitely an adult thing. So, yeah, American Gods, definitely different, but written incredibly, incredibly well. And hopefully next time I podcast, which will hopefully be in 2 weeks, I will have finished it and I can give you a more thorough review. Moving along into the next book that I'm reading, this is my physical book, and it is Lords of the North by Bernard Cornwell, and this is the third book in the Saxon saga, or the Last Kingdom, whatever you want to call it. And we are still following Uhtred, son of Uhtred, on his quest in Old England, so to speak, before England was England. It's set in the late 800s, and Uhtred, as we have learned, was he was the son of a lord in Northumbria, and his father was killed, and he ended up being adopted by a Danish earl named Earl Ragnar. And so he was raised Danish, essentially, and then he ended up going back over with the Saxons, and King Alfred, who is Alfred the Great, he works for him, or kind of becomes his sword, and a lot of the first couple of books, and even still continuing on, is Uhtred's kind of battle within himself over whether he is Dane or whether he is Saxon. And it's really well done. It's really, really quite well done. Pardon me. Uhtred is a jerk. Let's be honest. He's a young guy. He is arrogant. He is boastful. He is full of himself. But he's still endearing. And I think he's endearing because it's written from a perspective that he's an old man now looking back on his life and telling the story of his life. And I think that's what kind of keeps you endeared, because he's talking about himself and he's going, I was an arrogant piece of... And he totally recognizes the fact that he was kind of a jerk, and that comes across. And I think that's done super well. So I really like that aspect about things. But in this third book, they've kind of quieted things down in Wessex, and now Uhtred wants to go north to try to first avenge Earl Ragnar, who raised him, because he was killed by another dame named Kjartan. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Hopefully I am. And he wants to avenge his death, and then he also wants to reclaim Babenberg, which is his home that's being held by his uncle. And as he is doing this, he runs into Guthred, who is the slave king. He is supposed to be the king of Northumbria. He's a Dane. He's been set up by the Danes, and they work together as an alliance, and they're working together and making their way back to achieve these goals of Uhtred's, which turn out to be consistent with Guthred's goals. I'm not real far into it. I'm about 100 pages in. I enjoy, even though it's not a fast-paced book, I enjoy the read. I enjoy the history of it. It's just something I like to take my time with and just piece together. Like I said, it's not suspenseful or anything like that, but it's just really well written, and I find it very, very interesting and very fascinating. So that is The Lords of the North. That is it for what I've been reading. I guess I did finish with Philip Guardians of Ga'Hoole, the first book. He is super into owls, and so we've been reading that series, and he absolutely loves it, and I do need to grab the second book in that series so we can start that. And I'm not going to, well, maybe I'll do a review on that later on, but I'm not going to right now because I want to move on to what I've been knitting. So thank you for checking out the books. If that's all you're here for, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm sorry I'm not giving you a whole lot of content, but yeah, that's what I've been reading. I'm still trying to keep leisurely reading into my life as I can. So we're gonna try to keep keep that going. So I'm going to move on now to what I've been knitting. So my knitting content. Again, this content is going to go down quite a bit as things are getting together and I'm starting the new career and stuff. So, but knitting is still going to be my thing that I do for myself. And so I'll still have knitting that will be happening, but I'm going to focus a lot more on knitting for me and less for other people, since it is going to be my thing that I do to relax myself. I want it to be for me. I know that sounds kind of selfish, but I need that. I think I've knit for 2.5 years primarily for other people, and I think it's time to just spend some time knitting for me. That's not to say that I won't do some knitting for other people from time to time as well. That's not going to happen, but I'm not going to kill myself over it. Sorry. There's a fly buzzing around in here, and Flint, my dog, he really, really likes to hunt flies. Well, flies drive him crazy, so he will be hunting flies. So hopefully he doesn't knock over anything. So I do have 2 FOs this week to show you. The first one I have here, the second one I had to gift, but I did make a little video right before I gifted it. So I will insert that in when I get ready to talk about it. But the first one, these have been on my needles for so long. And they're just been a brainless, mindless knit that I've taken with me everywhere, but it just took me a long time to finish them. And they're just a pair of vanilla shorty socks that I knit with some leftover yarn from my exploration station. So I'll give you kind of a close-up of this. The body of the yarn, this is all Knit Picks Hawthorne yarn. This is the speckled, the cosmic speckle, and then the heels, cuffs, and toes are called Blackbird. And this is the first time I have ever done heels, cuffs, and contrasting heels, cuffs, and toes. And I really like how these turned out. They're shorties because I didn't have a ton of this yarn left. And I think they turned out super cute. These are the 6th pair of socks for my box of socks. Are they the 7th? They might be the 7th. I don't remember. It doesn't matter. Anyway, so these are the shorties. They're just a vanilla sock pattern. They're 64 stitches because that's what fits me best on a US 1.5 needle, which is 2.5 millimeter. There we go. That's what I'm doing. I'm so rusty at this and so out of this. I did a rounded toe. I knit these toe up. This isn't a rounded toe. I knit these toe up. So toe up, 64 stitches. I did a fish lips kiss heel because that's fast and easy, and when I'm doing mindless socks, I want fast and easy. And I did kind of a short rib, and it's just my rib of choice is cuff of choice is a 1x1 twisted rib. So this is my first finished object to show you. My second finished object was my starting point shawl, which was the Mystery Knit Along done by Joji Locatelli. And I did gift that, as that was a prayer shawl that was for a friend of mine from church. Her mother had been battling cancer for a long, long time. And unfortunately, like the morning after I finished the shawl, she passed away. But I still wanted to give it to my friend as a memory of her mother. And so I am going to insert the video that I made earlier of that shawl so you guys can see that. So we're going to go back in the past, back to my old house, and I'm going to show you my starting point shawl. So I am coming to you from my packed up room, which is totally ready to go, but I wanted to take a second and do a little video of my finished starting point shawl because I'm going to gift it. Today it's my last Sunday at church, and so I'm gonna be handing it off, but I wanted to show it to you guys real quick and insert this into my podcast whenever I get another chance to podcast. So I finished the starting point shawl, and it's huge, guys, so I'm just gonna show it to you in pieces. There's this, and then this is the center, and then this is the other side. And it still is like totally the watermelon shawl. It was very interesting construction, the way it all ended up coming together, and now that the pattern's been released, I don't feel bad about showing it, especially since I don't know when this is going to go up. So you ended up doing like knitting up to here, and then knitting the same thing on the other side, and then you kind of join them and knit this wedge right here to finish it off. So it was really an interesting construction, and it was fun to knit, but I will say I did get kind of tired of it because it's a lot of knitting, and I was really ready to be done with it and to move on with something else. So just to go over one last time the yarns that I used, my color one was this color right here, which is the Forest of Dean from Forbidden Woolery on her Charity base, which is 100% superwash merino. It's a singles base, so that was color one. Color two, which was my favorite in the whole thing, is this beautiful bright green with these speckles of darker green and hot pink and yellow in it, and that is from Beautiful Mess Yarnworks. I think it's her simple sock. The colorway is the Get Down, and it's another singles 100% superwash merino. The third color is this tonal pink. It's kind of like a hot pink, and this is Knit Pick Stroll, and the colorway is called High Tea. Colorway number four is this dark forest green, which is also a Knit Pick Stroll. This is Aurora Heather. And then the last colorway that I'll show you on this lace section was also Knit Pick Stroll, and that was Mountain Pass. And I thought I like the way all of the colors came together, and even though the pink does make it kind of look like a watermelon, I just really like how it turned out. And like I said, it's huge. It's absolutely massive. So like you wrap it up and it kind of goes all the way around you. So it's a nice big snuggly thing. I don't know. I might consider knitting it again, but it's a big knit. It's not a quick and fast thing, but it did turn out really pretty, and I do really like the effect and just the simple striping of it. So yeah, so that's the watermelon shawl, guys. So moving on to works in progress, I do actually have a hoe to show you, and because I finished my other pair of vanilla socks, I needed to get another. I always have to have, some mindless stuff on the needles, and I only have one other whip, and that is definitely not mindless. So I wanted to cast on a pair of vanilla socks, and back a little while ago when Knit Picks was clearing out what was left of their Felice yarn, I bought a whole bunch of it because it was like $2 a ball or something like that, and I do really like knitting with Knit Picks Felice. I love the self-striping of it, and it's a nice, inexpensive yarn to just use for gift knitting or whatever, if you just want to whip off a pair of socks and you don't care, and I was not really caring. I think it's nice yarn to use for that. And so I decided that I would cast on a pair of that, and again, doing contrasting heels, cuffs, and toes. Look at me go. Mainly because I only had one 50-gram ball of it, and I was afraid that if I did it all like that, I would not have enough to do 2 socks. My feet are small enough that if I did shorties, I could get by with that, but I wanted these to be a little bit taller than shorties, and so I thought I would do contrasting heels, cuffs, and toes to kind of make it so that I would be able to do both. Can't talk. I am so rusty. Do both socks with one ball, and so I have one done, and here it is. I think it's super cute. The colorway is called Pinata, and it's just this bright colors. I really am trying to knit outside of my color comfort zone with socks, and I think I did this here because this is definitely not my standard way of doing things. So this is it. I'm really happy with it. I have not cast on the second one yet, but I need to do that, so I have that ready to go. I knit these cuff down. I think I may be a convert from toe up to cuff down. Toe up definitely has its place, and I got yarn fuzz on my face, sorry. Toe up definitely has its place, and I do like, there are things about it that I definitely like. I like that you can try it on and get a good feel for the length on your foot a little bit easier than you can with cuff down. That being said, you can still try it on cuff down socks. You just kind of have to know where about on your foot you need to start knitting the toe. And that's all just comes with practice and learning what you're doing. Again, just like the last ones, these are 64 stitches around and a US 1.5, 2.5 millimeter. I knit these on my Hiya Sharps, which I am growing to like. I did these cuff down, 1x1 twisted rib. The cuffs are knit in Knit Pick Stroll, which is also a 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. But it doesn't seem to be twisted as tightly, if that makes sense. I don't know. The Felici seems like the twist is tighter. So this is the dandelion colorway, this yellow that I did the cuffs and toes in. I did another Fish Lips Kiss heel, and then finished it off with the rounded toe because that's what I like. This is my standard sock recipe when I'm knitting for myself, and actually for Abby. This works for Abby as well. If I knit my size, so her foot's just a little bit smaller than mine, and so this works well for her too and gives her a little bit of room to grow into. One is done. I will get the second one cast on soon, maybe this evening. After I'm done with everything, I will cast that on. So I have that ready to go for some more mindless knitting. So then I'm going to move on to my other work in progress. My other work in progress, which definitely requires a lot more brain space than vanilla socks, is a pattern for a top that I had been wanting to knit for a while. It's a summery top, and I finally decided I was going to cast it on. And this is living in my awesome, this is a Valentine's Day bag from the Valentine collaboration that Freckled Whimsy did with Legacy Fiber Arts, and this is the beautiful bag that came with it. So it's living in this bag for right now, but it'll probably change, and I'll put it in something bigger as it gets bigger, since it is a garment. And this pattern, if I can untangle things here, I don't have a lot done on it. I had a lot more done, but the lace was looking funny and I had to rip it out. So the pattern is called Zanone, and it's by Andy Satterlin. And this is what I've got so far. Not a lot. This is the back. I will have to show you. I have a couple small acquisitions hanging right there. I'll show it to you in more detail in a second. I had this back part, lace back, so I'll turn it this way since this will be the top. I had a lot more done, but I had messed up somehow and the lace was not matching up. I don't know if you can see this very well, but it's a really pretty lace pattern. It definitely requires some brain power, and I'm moving kind of slowly on it because I don't want to mess it up again, and it just takes a lot of thought. I decided, I debated about the yarn that I wanted to use. Part of me really wanted to go with the Quince & Co. linen yarn that was, the original pattern was knit in, but from a financial perspective, that was not going to work. So I opted to go with Knit Picks Lindy Chain, and this is it. It's a cotton linen blend. It's really odd to knit with. It feels strange, but the fabric that it makes is really quite nice. And this is the Hollyberry colorway, which is this beautiful kind of wine-ish color, and I think is showing up pretty true to color on screen. And this is, again, an outside of my comfort zone knit. I usually go with blues and purples, but I just want to add some more color into my life. a lot with accessories and things like that, but I just feel like I need more than just blues and purples going on. That is what I gravitate towards, and I'm trying really hard to branch out from that a little bit and wear some other colors and just kind of grow a little in that regard. So that's what I'm doing with this. I do think it's a really pretty color. I think it will look nice with my skin tone, and I'm excited to get it done and be able to wear it, and I'm really hoping I'll have it done before summer's over and it gets cold again and it's time to go back to wool. But if I don't, that's okay. I'll have it for next year. I'm just taking my time on it because it does take a lot of brain space. But I did want to show you, before I moved, I decided to make a little purchase from Sucre Miniatures around Memorial Day. If you were watching any of my vlogs, you will have seen this, so I apologize. But I decided to take advantage of a coupon code that she had and ordered some of her stitch markers because they're so cute. Or not stitch markers, progress keepers. And this is one that I got. I don't know how well you can see that. If it'll focus. There we go. This is a bagel with cream cheese, which is like my favorite thing to eat for breakfast. So I had to get a bagel with cream cheese. So the other one that I got, and well, again, we'll see if we can get this to focus as I'm dropping it, is a little peach. It stopped jiggling. It's super cute, very peachy. And this is, I have an inside joke with a friend about peaches. And so when I saw she had a peach, I went, I have to get a peach. So I got the peach and the bagel with cream cheese, and I think they're fun and they're cute, and I may get some more of those because they're fun little decorations for my knitting. That's all I have as far as acquisitions or knitting in general. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what's going on in my life. If you're not interested in that, then that's fine. You're free to go. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you liked it. It was a little chaotic. I know I've been out of it and a little rusty, and I do plan to continue with the vlogs on off weeks. I find that I kind of like doing it. I don't know if you guys are enjoying it at all or watching them at all, but they're there. Check them out. They're short and just kind of show little insights into my week. And yeah, I like it just to kind of watch what I've been doing in the past week. It's kind of a nice little journaling experience for me. So I'm going to keep doing those. So I'm going to talk about life stuff. Sorry, I'm blabbing. And I will see you all next week, hopefully for a vlogcast. And if not, hopefully in 2 weeks for a regular formal podcast. So life stuff. There has been a lot that has been going on. If you are a regular viewer of the podcast, you know that I am starting a new career, and I have moved from my hometown that I grew up in and that I moved back to, and where I had been living with my kids since my daughter started kindergarten, which is 7 years, and all my family was there, and I have moved about 50 miles west, and I am going to be a pastor of 2 Methodist churches over here. I am a full-time pastor working part-time basically for each church, and they're about 15 miles apart. I've moved to a place where there is not a lot around. I need to go get groceries today because I have not gotten groceries yet, and it's going to be about a 15-minute drive to get groceries. It's kind of a 15-minute drive to get anything. There is a gas station here in town, but that's about it. There's not a whole lot here. So it's interesting. I moved on Thursday. The nice thing with the church is when they move you, I am in a parsonage, so this is not a house that I own. The church owns it. It's a beautiful house. They have done an amazing job keeping it up. I might take a little bit of video. I don't want to do a lot because it is a church house, but you might get glimpses of things as I do my vlogcast of some of the rooms. It's beautiful. It's so much nicer than the house that I lived in before, and it's really cool. I'm really excited to be here, and the kids are excited to be here as well, and it's really exciting. So we moved Things are still in boxes. I had to go yesterday observe a wedding because I have to go get my license to preach, which means that in the churches that I'm appointed to, I'll be able to do the sacraments like communions and weddings and baptisms, which are important. And I have to take a class to do that. It takes place over several months, some weekends, but in 2 weeks I have to go for like a 4 or 5 day retreat to start it all off. And so I have coursework that I have to get done before I even get there. And so I had to go observe a wedding for that. So I ended up going back in the direction that I was from originally to go observe this wedding. And it was really good. I got to talk to the pastor. He helped me a lot with some of the things that I have been personally struggling with on this journey, my own inadequacies of whether or not I'm good enough to be a pastor. There have been some unfortunate things that have happened that have really made me doubt that again and made me question myself in many ways. And I will say, I apologize, I don't want to get too preachy or religious on the podcast, but I think many of you probably believe in a spiritual force of some kind, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to call it God because that is my background, but feel free to, whatever works for you. Let me just say that. But I feel like God has really provided for me in many ways. I'm going to get emotional a little bit, and I'm sorry about that, because this has been one humongous leap of faith for me. And God has been providing every step of the way, and it has been very humbling and awe-inspiring and very overwhelming to see the way that everything that I have needed has been provided for me. From needing a couch to my neighbors getting rid of a couch to trying to figure out how I'm going to get groceries before I get my first paycheck, and gift cards have come. And the way that God is providing for me through the people around me is such an overwhelming expression of love that I am speechless, completely speechless. And I am very nervous. My first Sunday in the pulpit will not be tomorrow, which is July 2nd, but it will be July 9th, so I have a week to finish getting settled and work on preparing for that and kind of getting my bearings before it all really starts. And I'm nervous and I'm excited, and I just really hope that I am able to do for these people what they need and what God needs me to do. So that's been what's going on in my life. And without further ado and without going any farther, I need to get on with that because I have to get groceries. I have no food in the house, really, just a few things. And I need to get a few things and get some things unpacked and start making some progress into making this livable. And then I have some work to do because I am officially a pastor. So I hope everyone has a great week. For those of you in the United States, have a happy 4th of July. Celebrate safely. Don't blow your hands off with the fireworks, guys. Be smart, be safe. Have a great time. Enjoy this really strange weather. And just have a great week. And happy knitting, happy reading. And I will see you guys again soon. Bye!